What do you need, soldier? Oh, yes, I suppose I can talk. We're between battles, and a conversation would be refreshing. Spit it out. You're curious about something, but you're worried about how I'll react. Is it about how I died? No one ever asks me about it, but I often wish someone would. It's not a happy memory, but my side of the story contains the only fragments of joy I ever had. Everyone seems to know the story of Icarus, but no one thinks to ask me about it. People would rather ask Mother. Daedala, didn't your child die long before you did? Daedala, do you think they were punished for their hubris? If only they knew. It wasn't hubris. It was love. And it was freedom. I often wonder what my life would have been like if I had lived past my first taste of freedom. I spent my entire childhood locked in a small room with only my mother for company. Mother spent most of her time trying to devise a way to get us out. She didn't talk to me much. I learned to make my own fun, tinkering with whatever scraps Mother would let me take. Sometimes she'd snatch whatever I had out of my hands and use the pieces. The sun was my only friend. The moon was passive and cold, but the sun gave us light and warmth, and I always wondered what it would be like to meet whoever controls it. The sun came back every day. Nothing else visited with such certainty. Just the sun. Sometimes I dreamed of him. A man riding inside a chariot, his radiant beauty leaving no doubts in my mind as to who he was. As I grew older, he appeared in my dreams more frequently, and by my 22nd year it was a nightly occurrence. This was when he began talking to me. "Just wait, my sweet Icarus," he often said. "Wait for me, and I will come save you as soon as I can." One night I asked him why he was taking so long. He was clearly a god, so what was keeping him? "I'm trying, my sweet Icarus. I'm trying to convince Inquire to permit me to send an envoy closer to the seas to reach you. Just hold on." Mother surprised me only a few days after that. She was more excited than I'd ever seen her. "Icarus, I've devised our escape," she told me, showing off the wings of metal, wax, and cloth she had built. She told me how to fly, and I understood her instructions. It made sense to me. I suppose maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree after all. I convinced her to wait one more day. I told her I hadn't slept well the night before. In truth, it had been a while since I'd last slept well. Maybe that was his fault, but I can't bring myself to be upset about it. That night, I told him that Mother had created mechanical wings for the two of us to make our escape. I told him to ask Inquire for nothing more than our safe passage. Even if he didn't agree to it, we were not going to spend another day locked away. He looked heartbroken, and he apologized to me. This too must be Ananka's will. The remainder of the night was dreamless and restful. You know the story already, but you don't know how it felt. I had my freedom for the very first time in my entire life. And such freedom it was. I looked up and saw him. He was inside his chariot, and it should have blinded me, but I think he was shielding me from that. I flew upwards toward him. He flashed a smile, and it made me feel giddy. The sun god loved me. I could feel that, and I wanted to speak with him while I was awake. But he couldn't shield me from the heat, and the wax in my wings that held the feathers together melted as I flew closer. My flight began to stall, and I realized that I wouldn't last long so close to him. Still, I reached out in hopes that the sun god could save me. But his expression was somber, and I swear I saw tears roll down his cheeks. I looked down and saw that the sea was calm. My sun god must have convinced Inquire to let me and Mother through, because she flew safely ahead. There was still a chance I could survive this, a small chance, but a chance nevertheless. I smiled at him, and I descended carefully down. It was too sharp of an angle. I couldn't change my trajectory in time, not with so many feathers lost. I did manage to glide just above the water's surface, but Mother had given me 2 warnings. Don't fly too close to the sun, and don't fly too close to the sea. Seawater dampened the remaining feathers, and I realized I didn't know how to fix this. I cried out for my mother, ignoring the salty brine of the seawater. Mother would know what to do. She had to. She was my only hope at that point. I caught a glimpse of Mother just before I became submerged beneath the surface of the ocean. She was flying so high above me, too distant to hear me. Only then did I panic. I was going to die. I was going to die. As I sank into the sea, I saw a shimmering light glimmering through the water. The sun god was reaching for me, ignoring any quarrel he may have had with the sea god. I reached out and, well, you know how the story ends. I drowned. He failed to save me. When I woke up in the underworld, I cried. It's very easy to mourn your own death, I've found. I mourn it still with every breath I can no longer take. I mourn my freedom, too. It was short-lived, but it was wonderful and terrible in equal measure. I was free to fly wherever I chose, including right into my own demise. You don't get it. I'll never get to meet him. Mother has joined me, far older than I ever saw her, but the sun god can never reach this place. I still dream of him, but it's no longer him. Yes, well, I never called him by any name. Mother did not teach me much about the gods. I know now that it was Apollo who I loved, and with that knowledge I also understand why he couldn't save me. He's not just the sun god. He's also the god of prophecy. He knew I was doomed, and that didn't change anything. It didn't save me. What good is precognition if you cannot bargain with the fates? Sorry, that was blasphemous regardless of whether I'm right or wrong. I wouldn't take it back, though. The dreams we shared, the love I had for him, that's why I fight on behalf of the heart. Love is the only thing I ever had, really. I didn't own anything, and I didn't really have a life to lose. What I lost was my chance at love. Thank you for hearing me out. I know we aren't very close, and I'm technically your superior as the General of the Angels of Megara, but I'm glad you asked me about my death. I'm glad at least somebody knows my side of the story, and at least somebody knows not to blame Apollo. Yes, soldier, it felt good to get it off my chest. Now, why don't you go spend time with someone who knows levity? I have some very important brooding to do.